So, what you're about to see next is just some snippets of what we talk about in Mama Matters community. Home birth. I cannot begin to tell you what I thought about when I first learned that this was even an option. I went to, I visited a few options, right? I went to a birthing center. And when I walked into this particular place, they explained to me that 4 hours after the baby would be born, I would have to leave. Personally, I could not even begin to wrap my head around how I was going to get to this location when I was in labor and how after delivery I was going to get home with the traffic, the bumpy roads, and all of that. It just was not something that I thought was going to work for me. Um, and then I visited another birthing center. And when I went to this particular center, they have different rooms that just so happen to mimic bedrooms. And one of the rooms in particular had a four-post bed. I have a four-post bed in my room. And I remember thinking, like, if I can have a baby in like this room that looks like a bedroom, why wouldn't I just have the baby at home? Like the room for the most part had a very similar layout and some of like the furniture pieces in additions to the bed. And then I thought, well, realistically, I wouldn't have to go anywhere and I wouldn't have to return home. So, like, why are we even thinking about doing this outside of the home? So, naturally to me, I just figured we'll have a home birth. Um, then I learned about um, giving birth in water, right? So, like the birthing tub. And it was so interesting because at the time, this was so far away, like so far off my radar. You just have a baby in a hospital because that's what you do. In fact, I was told, why do you always want to do something like extra? Why don't you just like go to the hospital like everybody else? And we'll talk about that a little more. But I just thought it would be so much easier to be at home because I know my home. I'm comfortable in my home. I have my food, my clothes are here. If I want to like take a shower, I know where the linens are. Like I know, like you wake up at night and you need to use the bathroom, like you know how to get to the bathroom. You don't have to like fumble around for it's just the convenience and the comfort. So yeah, I said we're gonna have a home birth and that's what we did. The research started, and because of that second birthing center that I visited, I also learned that they were a midwifery practice and that they could come to the house. It just so happens there was no like difference in how much they charged, and I was in a state where state being in a physical state where, or my health was in a state where I was able to do it. So I said, let's do it. And so it was done. I would encourage you, if you're interested, to look at the options that you have. I know for the way how my home is configured, I was not able to have a water birth. Um, Now, what I could do was I could bring in, like, they have these inflatable pools. To me, it looks like a baby pool. It truly does, but they're a lot more fancier now. But you can bring in one of those inflatable pools and fill it up and have it in your living room. I was actually told that's where it would have to be because of the layout of my home, and I could have the baby there. And personally, I had just gotten brand new hardwood floors, and I said, we will never do that. Not with these brand new floors. What happens if water and other stuff fall? No, not on these floors. So that was very easy for me not to do that. But I hear wonderful things about it. I think that if it's something that you're interested in, you can rent these tubs, you can buy it. Um, Depending on the layout of your home, depending on your desire, it's not a big deal, right? Like you can have this water birth experience. If you have a standalone tub, you can actually have it in your bathtub, meaning you can deliver the baby in the bathtub. Or you can go to a birthing center. They usually have an option for you to do some type of water birth there as well. I think it is a phenomenal experience. I've done it twice in the same home, in the same bedroom. Um, and it just, it was just so comforting for me to have the opportunity to control like the lighting, have control of like my level of comfort. I knew who was going to be there. There was no like last minute shift change of a nurse to come. Like, no, I knew who was going to be there. I knew what it was going to look like because we had the birth plan. And I had taken this 12-week course. So I was mentally prepared. And it was not a very long process. It was a very interesting process because there were some things that didn't go according to plan. But at the end of the day, the plan was to have the baby, and the baby was born, and the baby was born at home, and the baby did not have to leave home. The midwives came and did all of like the following day. They came and did their checks and to make sure that the baby's vitals were good and that my mom or I was good. And then they did like a 48-hour check as well. And again, so the baby didn't have to leave. The only time we did have to leave was because the baby was not born at a hospital. We did have to do a hearing test, and we had to do I think that was it. Because for the eyes, when a baby is born, they can't see. Let me not say it that way. When a baby is born, they are unable to see past like right here. So as months go on, their vision becomes stronger, but there's no like visual test you can do for a newborn. So we did have to leave for a hearing test. And that was it. That was it for the first couple of months. So I'm a huge advocate for it. I think that it can be a wonderful experience as long as you plan and you have the team that you want around you. You're good to go. Birthing centers and hospitals are a little bit different. And I came to learn that when I did visit a couple of hospitals. So we know that, and I'm trying to be very politically correct, we know that in order to have a baby in a hospital, it is considered a major surgery. So because it's considered a major surgery, there are many things that are involved, right? You have a staff. I mentioned, about shifts, right? So if your doctor is able to attend, depending on the time of day that you give birth, that's one thing, right? So there may be a backup doctor. Also, there may be different nurses and aides that are helping with this. There are things that may be out of your control, like how you're going to deliver. And what I mean by that is, you know how a lot of times we'll see like in movies and on TV that the mother is usually like laying on her back and pushing. I didn't even know like that's not the optimal way to give birth. I had no friggin' clue. I really didn't know. And it was going through working with the midwifery practice that they share that also with going through the Bradley Method course that I took. I learned that there are many different positions, and actually the number one position is a squatting position. I never knew that. And the reason behind it, when I was taught the reason behind it and how through gravity, how it's much easier for the baby to descend out of the birth canal, it made sense. But I've never seen that. Well, then hold up. Then guess what happens? When I have my first child And baby was like almost coming out, and it was happening kind of fast. The birth assistant had a birthing stool. I didn't know anything about this, right? I remember her saying, like, let's move her off of the bed and let's try to get her in a squatting position so the baby can descend. And she called out to my father and had him go to get this birthing stool from her trunk. So I sit on the birthing stool, and which kind of looks like a toddler's wooden chair. She had this one, like it was handmade and from, I forget what country it came from. I know that it was in Africa. I don't remember what country it came from, but she had this like hand carved thing. It was beautiful. It really, really was. And yeah, I like braced myself on it, and baby was born. And I never knew this was a thing, because that's not what we're shown. This is not what many people are exposed to. So I had way more control, by being at home. Now you can opt in the hospital. You definitely can opt, and even in birthing centers, you can opt to have different, to try to labor in different positions. I know that one of the birthing centers that I visited, they had like these like straps or something that hung from this thing from the bed, and you could like use like to hoist yourself up so that you could be in different like squatting positions, kind of. So I don't know if all hospitals have that. I know that that one birthing center I visited had that, but you do have some, you're limited, but you do have options in hospitals on using different birthing and laboring positions. Also, a lot of times, well, let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room, right? So when you're in a hospital, you have the option of utilizing some birthing interventions, and we'll talk about that a little further down the line. But you can have an epidural. That's one of the birthing interventions, or the birth interventions that's introduced, right? So you can do that there. You cannot do that in a birthing center, and you cannot do that at a home birth. So if you choose to go with an hospital, a lot of them do have birthing centers in the hospitals, right? This is not like just isolated where if you go to a birthing center, it is strictly a birthing center, right? They may have a birthing center in, or a birth center in a hospital. The ones that I visited were independent. They were not in a hospital at all. But I think I would encourage you to do your research and make a decision on what you want to do for yourself. B, look at the benefits and the not so good things that may come about making these different decisions, to help you to guide in your decision on what you want to do for your actual labor and delivery. And there you have it. Those are some of the things we talk about in the Mama Matters community. If you're interested, click that link in the description box below, and we'll see you over in the Mama Matters community. See you there.